I bid you all good morning, good evening, and good night wherever you be watching this transmission. Let's spare a thought for those living down under in Australia. And we've been talking about the Australian housing market here since pretty much 2015. Connecting the dots across the Commonwealth, seeing what English-speaking countries are up to lure more foreign investors. Foreign investing is the key to keep these economies going. We know that Australia, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Western United States, from all the way from Seattle all the way down to California, and all the way and from New York and Illinois and places like Massachusetts, foreign investing is keeping those economies afloat. Foreign investing, there's so much capital flows coming out of China, it's absolutely phenomenal. Now with technology, people can buy homes online, sight unseen, and own that property and leave it empty. Thus, creating artificial shortages across the Commonwealth. And people living in those cities can't afford to buy. Homeowners become wealthy overnight on paper, but the Australian proper, the Canadian proper, the people that actually built the infrastructure could no longer afford to buy in their own markets. And I've spoken to several foreign investors, and they told me, well, that's their problem if they can't afford to buy in their own markets. Well, they don't understand how the law works, because if I tried to buy something in their country, they'd probably tell me, they'll laugh at me. I tried to buy a place in Mexico. I tried to buy two places in two different states on two different occasions in Mexico, and they laughed at me and kicked me out of the office and told me I was a foreigner. They don't sell to foreigners. They could lease me the land, and then they'll take my house after the lease is over. So how does it work to Western countries that have open markets or free markets? Free markets have turned on its head, and it's about housing. Now, Australia has the top of the tops, the top of the heap when it comes to luring Chinese investors. They've done everything. Seattle, after Vancouver put on the foreign buyers tax, Seattle, Washington, they were making brochures this thick, only in Mandarin, to bring in money from China. Okay, so what are they doing? I've heard of all kinds of stuff to bring in. Like London had this big thing before COVID, broadcasting to we're open for business. England is open. Come and buy us out. Well, Australia, I think, soup the lowest of the lowest. I think the Australians right now, especially the governments, should be very ashamed of this. I don't even know. I thought this was a joke when somebody commented on one of my videos, and I thought it was a joke when they said, yeah, the Australian government will pay foreigners 50 large to buy a new home. Was taxpayers' money? So the people that are out of the market who have been saving or waiting on the sidelines to see a housing correction can't no longer get in because they're not from China. Because if they were from China, they get a $50,000 rebate. And I thought this was a lie. Let's go into a deep scan here. Look at that. I thought this was a lie. And I found 13 articles. So Chinese buyers are being lured back into Australian property market by the generous government rebates of up to 50 large. 50 large. On a new home with calls to extend the incentive schemes past their expiry dates next year. Lily Chong, the Perth-based Australian head of Chinese property portal in Juwai IQI, said overseas buyers had started looking past the COVID pandemic and were planning for when travel restrictions are eased. Australia will pay foreigners up to $50,000 to buy a new home, Ms. Chong said. Wow. 50 large. Do you know what the Australian government's giving to the locals to buy their homes? Right there. That's what they're getting right there. They're getting shafted. You see what's happening? The politicians and people they're so desperate to export these homes. Why do you think during COVID, every country during COVID, construction was mandatory? Construction, not public construction, public sector like government bridges, government streets. No. Private sector construction was mandatory because they need to export homes. They don't care if your mom and pop stores close and shut them down and throw them out on the streets. Hairdressers and people that work hard that actually funded for this infrastructure. Funded that now their taxes are paying 50 large for somebody from China to come in and buy a house from them. That's how desperate, because the local Australians, People might look at this and say, well, there's probably too many homes in Australia and there's not enough population. No, there's too many people sleeping rough in Australia. Everyone's leaving the major cities. Melbourne in Victoria is going to be a ghost city unless they find a way to start selling these properties up. Australia will pay Chinese up to 50 large to buy a new home. Australia will pay Hong Kongers. Australia will pay Malaysians. It doesn't matter where you come from. It's all in interest in supporting the economy. Again, how is housing? Let me make this in full screen. How is housing? Well, how has housing become the pinnacle of an economy? How? I made a video 5 years ago. Countries in the Commonwealth, that's what it's called, 5 years ago, getting too dependent on housing to prop economies. How? It's not it's got to be exports. Australia has more mines, I think, than any other country in the Commonwealth. How are they not mining? No, well, China owns their mines. China owns everything in Australia. Western Australia currently has the most generous incentives available to non-citizens, with a 75% rebate on foreign buyer duty off the planned purchases capped at 50 large. Victoria rebates of the $27,500 are available under the land transfer duty waiver scheme. Because of the pandemic, most foreigners don't know about these incentives, Miss Chong said. You gotta get this front center. This has got to be front center in Beijing. Big billboards. Hey, come and buy a house. Go buy the rest of Australia out. Canada's going to be doing this real soon. Mark these words right now on your planner, because Canada will be doing this. Australian citizens can, in addition, take advantage of the federal government's $25,000 home butler rebate for new purchases or renovations, which will decrease to $15,000 at the end of next year, before expiring in March. So locals could get $25,000 for the home builder. I said home builder, and for renovations, because they got to keep those homes up. So when foreign investors come to buy, they could go ahead and have them nice painted, nice and clean. You know, $25,000 nowadays doesn't even get your home painted. So, and $15,000 at the end of the year before expiring in March. Ms. Chung predicted incentives would shift overseas buyers from other parts of the country, like to Western Australia, to a lesser extent to Melbourne. So here's the deal. They're going to go, what happened in Canada. Let me explain to you guys in Australia what happened in Canada. The major cities were too expensive. So the people living in the major cities moved out to the outskirts, like 3 hours away. I moved 2 hours out of the city, and I couldn't be happier. And now these homes are going up in price. But as these go up in price, there's still foreign investors coming in here now and buying up whatever middle class that's existing in the interior. So now they're going to go to other parts of Australia and then wreck the pricing scheme there and actually basically force people into homelessness. That's just what's apparently going to happen. That's exactly what's not apparently. This is what is going to happen. So here it is. So I made a phone call myself. And I said, I actually called. I made a phone call. I called. And I said, hi, I'm a Portuguese citizen. I would like this $50,000 grant offer to buy a house in the specific area advised. And the lady told me, basically with a very heavy Oriental accent, told me that this is more for Chinese. And this is basically what she told me. Once she found out I was Portuguese, I got this.
We couldn't run an ad that said no Portuguese, but, no Portuguese.
True story. But anyways, let's move on and let's get on to what is happening here. So here it is, guys. Australia, let's go back here. Australia will pay foreigners up to 50 large to buy a new home as Perth market set to boom. Oh my God. So they're going to blow up the Perth market now. So you're going to have it's going to get really bad. This is going to get really ugly in Australia. It's basically exactly what we just said. Almost the same pictures too. Let's move on. Aussie real estate snapped up by Chinese buyers following the COVID pandemic. Many nations in the world don't allow foreigners to buy land or property in their country. Instead, it must be leased. Yeah, Mexico's like that. When I went to Mexico, I wanted to buy a house in Cuernavaca. They said no. I wanted to buy a house in Tasco Guerrero. They said no. I wanted to buy a house in Juliantla. They said no. So I mean, it's really tough, like to without leasing the land, and then there's all these speculations where they could just take your house away from you, right? China is among the toughest, with many other Asian countries also adhering to the communist rule that the land belongs to the people. So also in Thailand, me and a couple other friends were supposed to open a bar. And when we found out the restrictions on foreigners for owning property in Thailand, we can't do it. We can't do it. So it's not just, I'm not just picking on Mexico. Thailand's the same thing. Yep, here in Australia, there's no such laws, just a few restrictions on the ownership of large valuable holdings that must be declared on Foreign Investing Review Board. There are now calls by those in the real estate industry for us to impose the same rules and lease, not sell our precious properties. It's over. It's gone. I even said this, I even made this very, very clear in a video I did a few years ago, that to get out of this, countries should mirror other countries. It's not racist. Like, for example, I made specific videos discussing this, a mirrored immigration system. Okay, I'm a Portuguese citizen. Now, as a Portuguese citizen in Australia, what am I allowed to do as a Portuguese citizen? A Portuguese is not allowed to own property. A Portuguese is not allowed to work without 90-day or some sort of permit. Portuguese is not allowed to gain more than blah, blah, blah. A Portuguese is this. Then Portugal turns around and said for an Australian wanting to live in Portugal, follows the exact same rules that Australia is imposing. That's it. Problem solved. If Australia had the same laws that China did for their land policies and banking policies and money laundering policies, Australia wouldn't be in this jam right now. I could probably go buy a 1-bedroom or lease a 1-bedroom for super cheap there and have a place in Sydney, even though I don't even go there. I'm just paying rent on it because it's so dirt cheap. So this is what's happening. So basically, other countries allow it. So this is a really well-written article. It comes back to the news that China is back at the property buying market with their economy picking up after the outbreak. With a depressed economy here, real estate sales plummeting along with the property prices and a drop in the Aussie dollar, Chinese buyers are in the market to snap up cheap land and homes as bargain basement prices. So with a weaker Australian dollar, from farms to coal mines and airports and water supplies, how China is gobbling up millions of acres of land of vital infrastructure companies as part of a distributing plan to exert greater influence and control over Australia. And then you got all, you guys, you know what I'm saying? You guys know what I'm saying here, right? China is buying up Australia land, infrastructure, and businesses at an alarming rate, and it seeks to project power and influence beyond its shores. That's it. It's over. Australia's finished. It's like you could play the We Are the Champions song in China's favor, and that's it. We are the champions. They won. The communist nation of 1.4 billion owns an airport in Western Australia, 9 million hectares of Australian land, several Aussie coal mines and wind farms, and even the port of Darwin, a key strategic asset. China is also the largest foreign owner of Australian water and has projected soft power down under by planting Communist Party-approved Mandarin teachers in schools and universities. That's it. That's it. What the Chinese want to do and what the Portuguese did in the 1500s. What the Portuguese did in the 1500s, this is what China wants in the 21st century. Right? The English tried doing it in the 1600s, and the French and Dutch tried doing it in the 1700s, right? But this is it. There's a photo right here. Look at this photo. Let's go to deep article scan here. So there's Port of Darwin. Look at all this, all owned by China. So this is it. Infrastructure. Welcome to the Meridian Airborne Woolley, owned by the China Southern West Australian Flying. Whatever. So there it is there. Australia is like, it's between 2017 and 2018, Chinese companies added 50,000 hectares to their Australian property portfolio. But what happens to the people living there that actually that were born and raised there for, like, let's say 10, 13 generations, right? So there it is right there, people. So if you look at this, it says a foreign agriculture land interest by source of countries. So this is foreign-owned portion. United Kingdom is in first, 9,752. Okay, that's okay because it's an English colony. It's a former British colony, so there's no surprise. If you go to Brazil, like Brazil, a lot of the major farmlands are still owned by original Portuguese overseers from Portugal. It's a former Portuguese colony. It was a Portuguese colony for like 400 years. It's very different, right? But then China comes in second, then the United States way below, then everybody else is way below the radar. China is right with the UK. I think this is old too. This is from 2017. I could bet you 100 to 1 that China owns more than the United Kingdom does in Australia now. Yeah, baby formula, snapping it up and sending it back overseas. This is scary, guys. This is wind farms. They own everything. Control all the water. Wow. There you go. Foreign held water entitlement by country. China, number 1. Wow. I can't believe this. I can't believe they're allowing and selling off their mineral rights, their water rights. This should be a God-given right to to people that work the land, that pay their taxes. This is crazy. See, here you go. Chinese investors are waiting to snap up. We already talked about this. So there it is. It's like, what about the local people? Like, what about the people? Like, it doesn't make any sense. There's so many people sleeping rough. There's so many people that don't have jobs. There's so many people that are faltering. So here is the channel, guys. This is no surprise here on this channel. So here it is. Australia versus China economic war. Let's see what we got that's old here. So we got Chinese return to Australia. That's from a year ago. Is China to blame for Australia's housing crisis? Rich Chinese parking more money in real estate. Look at this one from a year ago. Will Australia exist in 30 years? That video I made for you guys a year ago. Housing crisis Australia. Help hotline out of control 3 years ago. And I haven't lived in this property for 4.5 years. So this is the housing debt. This is my opinion from 3 years ago. Housing debt and personal debt is skyrocketing out of control. Too many people living off the equity in their homes. Wow. Check out my series, Australian Mortgage Debt Prison Parts 1 through 4. Look at this. 3 years ago. Housing crisis. Australia money laundering. This is a major issue. And it's been happening, and everyone's turning a blind eye. Australia's low interest rates could be doing more harm. Australia's economic perfect storm disaster. Let's lower rates. Wow. Australia was in a recession 6 months ago. They finally announced it. What else have we got here? Australians about to fall off a $75 billion cliff. Yeah, that was from 5 months ago. That was the big December cliff. So now I asked this question. I had Martin North on the channel. Australia Housing Weekend Update from 2 years ago. I had Martin North. This is the big one here. Housing crisis Australia wake up. This is from like, I haven't lived there in 4 or 5 years. And it says, Australia wake up, save your people. The government thinks Australia's crazy house prices are fine. They are importing rich investors to buy you guys out and turn Australia into a nation of renters. So this is longer than 3 years because I have not lived on this property for many years ago. For many years, like at least 4 or 5 years. So there it is, guys. Look, get out of Sydney, housing out of reach. In my opinion, it's going to get a lot harder for the average wage earner to get into anything. The same thing is happening in all Canadian major cities with 2+ million population. Okay, so there it is, guys. Look, Chinese investors buying up Athens. No, that's another one. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I really want to know what you guys think about this because this is a major issue, and they're going to do what they can. I believe Canada will do the same thing. We'll give a huge rebate to foreign investors to come in. And that's it. They export homes. Western countries export home to wealthy investors. That's it. They never cared about us. They never cared. They cared about us, or they gave us health care to make sure we could keep building the infrastructure and then basically end up, deporting us or getting rid of us, right? A lot of people don't know that a lot of Europeans were deported from Canada, especially the people of the Portuguese descendants were mass deported. And it's
We couldn't run an ad that said no Portuguese. but, no Portuguese.
Sorry, guys, I had to just kind of put that out there for you guys. Anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I look forward to reading this. This madness has to end. I don't know what they're gonna keep moving this. I don't know what to tell you guys. I don't even know how to explain this to you guys. I don't know. I'm lost for words, guys. You know I've been there for you guys for years. Oh yeah. So I had a question from Martin North. Martin North came on the channel. And I'm going to show you here. He came on the channel for an hour. He did an hour show with us. And one of the questions I asked him, let me go to my playlists. It's probably under legendary guests. Legendary guests. Where out there? Legendary guests. I have it here somewhere. Give me a sec, guys. I'll show you this. If you still want to wait around, that's fine. Martin North came on the show, and I asked him a very specific question, a very important, specific question. And I basically asked him, I said, Mr. North, has there been enough foreign investing from China in Australia that even if the Australian proper was to default on their homes, or the September or November or December cliff, and people start defaulting and can't pay, is there enough foreign investing? Is there enough of a crater of foreign investing that it won't affect the economy much because most of it is already sold out to foreign investors? That was my question to Mr. North. I have a little section here called Legendary Guests. Here it is. So I have Mineko64. I had all kinds of people on this channel. Guys, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, be part of the channel. Here's Mr. North right here. So this is the video I did with Martin. All right, I'm going to bring him on. So he's been
to the virus hitting. So we were already facing
into it. And I asked him that question. He thinks not. That there's not enough. But I don't know. I honestly beg to differ for Canada. For Canada, I could tell you guys, there's enough foreign investing here that if Canadians were to default on their mortgages, it wouldn't even make a difference. The banks will just default, repossess the homes, and then sell them to wealthy investors. Anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Look very forward to reading your comments. Thanks for watching.